I'm Shari Melto, and we're at my funky little cottage on Plum Bush between Newburyport and Plum Island on the north side of the Great Marsh. I was in Manhattan thinking about where I might want to retire and popped up on my computer this listing for this little cottage. I knew it was mine immediately, got on the train in the middle of a nor'easter and came up here, saw it, bought it on the spot. Because it was a storm, I thought I had oceanfront property. In fact, I found out later it was just high tide. But I've loved it here, and this is where I want to do all my environmental thinking and working and talking. Well, this is part of the Great Marsh, which is about, I think, 65,000 acres around here. It includes the Parker River Refuge and down as far, I think, as Cape Ann. And the Great Marsh is part of the barrier beach system, which Plum Island is a part of. And the marshes actually protect the land from a lot of the storm and the weather that comes in over the ocean and over the barrier beaches. So it's really important. It's also a nursery for a lot of the sea animals and fish and so forth, and so it's an important ecological place to protect. The Gulf of Maine Institute is a group that helps support high school students all around the Gulf of Maine. So right now we have teams in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick and Maine and several in Massachusetts. We've got a team that's been working with drifters, which are little contraptions that you build out of canvas with a GPS that helps track the currents, and we're working with NOAA scientists on that. Well, when I moved from Manhattan up here, it was such a culture shock that my question was, how do I get involved? And when I fell in love with the marsh, then I started looking for organizations and people who were about protecting these special places. I think it's going to be great going forward. I think it's one of the most important things I've done. Well, there are a lot of things. Probably for me, where I am, the biggest issue is sea level rise and increased storms, because we're so vulnerable here on barrier beaches and marshes. And so there's a lot of concern there. We've lost a lot of houses to the ocean last year with several storms. And I was looking at a map of sea level rise for this cottage and figured that I may last until it hits 1 foot, but beyond that I will probably float away as well. So the risk of all of the houses on Plum Island and around here is a real one, and I think we recognize that it's not theoretical anymore. It's real. We're worried about water quality because we're downstream from where the Merrimack starts and all the industrial waste, so water quality is a big issue. We're dealing with invasive species. We're dealing with habitat with the birds. So we have a lot of issues that are related to climate change. For me, living in Manhattan, I felt so separated from any of the environmental issues. And being up here, it's like I'm exactly in the middle of everything. So it's brought it home and is very real to me. And that's why I would like to have as many people as possible experience the beauty and the positive side of all of this, so that they'll recognize how important the marsh is and what we need to do now. Is it a bibliophile? Is that what it is? Mm-hmm. Well, I guess if I have an obsession, it's probably the best one I've had. But over the years, I collect books, and sometimes multiple copies of the same book, which I write in and make notes in and so forth. And it's been, I think, what has taken me directions that I didn't expect to go. Like coming here, I'll pick up a book and there'll be something in there that gives me a different point of view or a different idea. And it will refer me to another book, which I'll grab and go that direction. And it's like an intellectual adventure. So I collect my books, and they tend to grow and grow and grow. And when I move from place to place, I usually let thousands of them go. This little cottage, if you hadn't noticed, is basically turning into a library. So at one point I said I would be happy to sacrifice the sofa if I could find more bookcases. So the next time you come back here with the renovation, you may see the sofa, or you just may see more bookcases, because we do live with stories. We identify with each other through stories. And if those stories go both ways into a dialogue where we share each other's stories, then chances are we'll find a middle ground, and maybe we can figure out what we need to do in time, I hope.